In this passage from the Gita, Krishna is telling us that to attain God, to receive His grace, we need to be open. We need to be receptive. We need to focus on the highest within us. Arjuna, when he puts down his bow and can't fight, he is saying that he can't do it. I can't do it on my own. I need help. I want to be a channel for the light, but I don't know what to do. And he prays to God for that help with an open heart. This also, in a sense, is our situation, isn't it? We talk, as in this passage, of attunement, of devotion, but sometimes those may not come so easily. But what all of us can do, what everyone can do today, is to have an open and receptive heart. It's something simple that we can all do. Yesterday, our friend Amit was telling us a story of Swami Kriyananda, and he was saying that he was at a big function with Swamiji, and there was a queue, and people were coming up individually to Swamiji. The new people were introducing themselves, and he was blessing each one. He would place his finger on their forehead. And Amit was new on the path, and as he was in this queue, he kept thinking in his mind, he kept rehearsing what words he would say to Swamiji, how he would introduce himself. And then finally he got up there and he gave his speech, and then he just stood there. And Swamiji said, "Come closer and I'll bless you." But Amit, he was so self-conscious, he was so self-absorbed in all of that his heart wasn't open to receive. It's like when we have a glass and water is being served, and to receive that water, we hold out our glass. We don't hide it behind our back. We don't turn the glass upside down. We don't have the glass completely full with something else. We're open to receive. The glass needs to be empty. And we're also asked, just how willing are we to receive God's blessing, His grace? Yoganandaji uses the example, if we go to the vast ocean with a teaspoon, all we'll get is a teaspoon of water. But if we go with a big bucket, we get a bucket full of water. And so the choice is ours. You know, how open is our heart? How empty is our vessel? Our satsangs on Sundays here have been recorded, and so every week those who can't attend in person can watch them. And this last week we watched the satsang when some of the pilgrims who came from here and went to Ananda, California, were speaking about their pilgrimage. And one of the topics touched on, there's a saying that an institution is the length and breadth of one person, of the leader, of the founder. And it's true that Ananda Sangha does reflect Swami Kriyananda as the founder, but the pilgrims who went there found so much more. They discovered a principle at work. That, now years after the death of the founder, Ananda is not frozen in time, but it continues to grow faster than ever. And that is based on that core principle of being open and receptive in our hearts. And they saw that even in a business meeting, that the meeting would be started with a prayer to ask for guidance from the divine and to offer our devotion. And that, rather than go into that business meeting with the thought that I think I'm right and I want everybody to support my agenda, go into that meeting asking inwardly the question, what is trying to happen here? What is trying to happen? And sometimes the best ideas or solutions come from the most unlikely sources, if we're open for them. When I first started meditating, to me meditation was a mental exercise. I would do a practice, I would get results, and it was pleasant, but it was just in my own head. And if I had continued with that dry attitude towards meditation, pretty soon I probably would have left it. Instead, I discovered bhajans. And I found that by repeating the names of God in Sanskrit, of listening and singing along with Yogananda's chants in English, my heart was opening. I was beginning to develop devotion. And I also felt a sweetness and a stillness in those chants, and I could transfer that stillness then into my meditation. And it became much easier, and I found that my meditations were deepened, they were joyful, they were enjoyable, and my life also gained this depth and this enjoyment. Jesus said, another saying of his is, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. But we have to knock. We have to ask the question. With openness, with humility, and with a vessel, a heart that's empty of ego, empty of attachments, so that we can truly receive. When Hanuman rips open his chest, there's the image of Rama on his heart, in his heart, because all he saw was God. There was no room in his heart for anything else. And this is how we want to be. There's a story of a young boy who lived at the ashram of Satya Sai Baba. And the boy went home once to visit his family, and when he came back to the ashram, Sai Baba asked him, well, how was your visit? Did you see your father? Did you see your mother? And the boy replied, I saw only you, Baba. And so Sai Baba asked him, well, what about your brothers and your sister? Did you see them? Did you play with them? And the boy said, I played only with you, Baba. And then the boy said, please don't tease me anymore. I saw only you. And this too is what we want, to be so one-pointed that we see in everything God expressed in all his myriad forms. We don't see the thing, we see the God behind the thing. when Yogananda Ji, as a young boy, was very ill with cholera. There's a story in the autobiography of how his mother prayed to Lahiri Mahashaya. And she had her son pranam to the photo of Lahiri on the wall in front of him. And it was her love, it was her prayer that brought healing about. She had to knock before the door was opened. And I used to, for many years, in my little meditation space, a corner of my room, meditate with a large photo of Yogananda, this last smile. And I used to gaze into the eyes, and they would speak to me. And at that time, I would see Swami Kriyananda frequently. And if I had a question for him, I could ask him in person, or I could write him a letter. And then one day, I thought I would try an experiment. And I started meditating just the same way I did on Yogananda's eyes. I started meditating on Swami Kriyananda. And I asked him inwardly, certain questions. And then the next time I saw him, or maybe it was a discourse of his, maybe it was a book I picked up of his, there was the answer. The precise answer that I was looking for. And I never had to ask anything. It was remarkable, but there was no mistake. As Jesus said, ask and it will be given, and knock and the door shall be open. Thank you.
As you know, we've been at Ananda Village. Soon as we left India, we had a seclusion at the Crystal Hermitage at Ananda Village, which is in California, for those of you that don't know, and it was the founding place of Ananda's work before it became worldwide. It started back in the late 60s. And we had the great, great blessing of being able to take a seclusion at the Hermitage where Swamiji's apartment is, and also there's a small mandir there also where his body lays now. And we meditated in Swamiji's flat, in his meditation room, and in the mandir where Swamiji's body is. And it was such a blessing to be able to be open and feel Swamiji's presence there so profoundly, as we seek to do here often in meditation, as we seek to feel our Guru's vibration. There it was quite tangible, and I felt that I was very, very lucky to be able to meditate there, and was holding you all in our prayers while we were doing it. And one day, I was sitting in the Hermitage kitchen looking out over the lower gardens where so many activities have taken place over the last 50 years. Many, many had taken place before I ever came to Ananda Village, which wasn't until '97. And then many have happened since. I've been there since the 14 years we've been in India. But I sort of had this speeded up sort of vision of all the people and activities that had ever been in the lower gardens, and just saw so much joy and our spiritual family serving each other, and so much laughter and so much wisdom and depth and devotion, and just sort of like a blurry dream that was speeded up, that those 50 years had passed, and just all the things that had taken place there. And part of me said, Ananda doesn't belong to Swami Kriyananda. It doesn't belong to the certain individuals living at Ananda Village. Ananda is what Swamiji would say, is a place where people can find God. And that same vibration at the Hermitage we can have in this temple. I have felt it many times in this temple. And anywhere we are, in our homes, at our altars, we can find that vibration if we are open. And Swamiji was open when he started a work that would bring the teachings of our Guru, particularly Paramahansa Yogananda's teachings on Kriya Yoga to the world. But what I was thinking was that all these individuals, even if we didn't know them, what did they have in common? It could be us in that vision that I had. As long as we were open to be channels of Divine Mother's grace, of Divine Mother's love, of Divine Mother's light to each other. Because it's not the individuals that mattered, it was the bringing down of grace into the world that mattered. And that's really where our true path lies, is to be open and receptive channels and ever more perfect instruments of Divine Mother's grace, of the Master's, wisdom and love, of God's light into this world. And, it's sort of hard how, we grow up when we're young and we think we need to do everything ourselves. We tell our mother, no. We want to learn how to walk by ourselves. We want to learn how to ride our bikes by ourselves, and let me make my decisions by myself. And we end up having a very strong sense of self, which helps us in life, because perhaps it's a strong sense of self that allowed you to decide to come to a place like Ananda, or learn to meditate, or break away from your families on Sunday morning and come. And yet, when we develop such a strong sense of self, sometimes our ego gets in the way, and we have, well, this is the way I want things to be. This is what pleases me, and this doesn't please me, and I like these things, and I don't like those people. And so suddenly, our world can become very small if we let it be limited only by our own desires and attachments. And so we have to, when it becomes so small, we start to suffer. We think we have to take care of everything ourselves. We have to, this work we need to accomplish, these children we need to bring up, this family we need to take care of. We think it's all on our shoulders because we're doing it by our own power and by our own willpower. And then we begin to suffer and we struggle. And then at some point the stress becomes to a certain point that, how can I find true happiness, and how can I get over this struggle and suffering? And so one thing leads to another, and perhaps we decide to take a meditation class or learn to meditate. And then suddenly we want to feel that sense of peace, that's something beyond our little self. And so in meditation we can connect with that ever-expanding peace, that ever-expanding vibration that moves beyond our little body. And suddenly we realize that our consciousness, that our world is becoming expanded. And then we start to tune into some great avatars that have an infinite consciousness, and realize if I attune my consciousness with that infinite consciousness, I'm suddenly allowed to receive their peace, to receive their wisdom, to receive their light. And it just relieves me of all the pressure that thinks I have to do this by myself, and attune my will to their will. And so, little by little, just as Keshava was saying about the cup, Yogananda said that this little cup cannot contain the whole ocean. We have to expand the cup of our consciousness to be able to receive infinity. That's how we have to expand ourselves. We want to receive that infinite bliss, that infinite light. And so how do we do that? And they say, purify your heart. Our heart needs to become pure. Christ said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Because when we have that pure longing for union with God, for that pure longing for the love, the eternal love that we've always been seeking, that longing just washes away our little sense of self, our little self-definitions, the little ways that we limit ourselves. This selfless love for God washes away those self-definitions. And so, that yoga, we're here practicing yoga, that union with God that we're all seeking, that union cannot come about without love. That union is a connection with love. And so although we teach techniques here, we teach Kriya Yoga, we teach meditation, Kriya Yoga is not Kriya Yoga without love for God and without developing devotion. Yogananda impress that on us time and time again. And so, with that love, we can receive the grace and receive the power to be free from all our limitations, to be free from any sense of separation. And so that's why we attune ourselves with the gurus, because they have the magnetism, they have the power to give us if we are open to receive it. As we said in the reading, and as Christ said, and Yogananda and Swamiji quoted all the time, and we quote often also, for those who received him, gave them he the power to become the sons of God. If we can be open to receive their magnetism of love, their power, that they achieved self-realization, that they achieved liberation, it's flowing to us all the time. If we will open our hearts and receive, they want to give it to us in every moment. So that's our job. Open our heart and receive it. And we too will become the sons of God. God bless you.